webinar. This is the fourth ULI webinar we have done since the COVID pandemic, and it's called Returns on Resilience.
So much value at stake for a bank. That's really what it's all about.
Amazing words. I mean, when someone from the banking industry says, you better be ready to be sustainable or not bank with us, that's the kind of leadership that I would like to see more from others in the financial institutions.
Many times you hear the comment that the pro forma don't support certain infrastructure investment. I would argue that those pro formas don't have the right information on the valuation at the exit or the operating costs.
I think my task is much more about setting a mindset. And the mindset in Holland has been changed already a few years ago. As you know, for the last hundreds of years, we're building dikes and keeping the water out. And slowly people also see that only fighting against the water is not enough. You also have to start living with the water underneath it. So you really have to change the city in a way slowly towards being more resilient. And for that, you have to bring structures that can live not only with sea level rise, also with extreme weather conditions like hurricanes.
And Jan, in the Caribbean, the physical risk is especially in the coastal projects, is driven by hurricane risk and sea level rise, and hurricane on top of sea level rise. So do you think that a client of yours that shows that they've studied those risks and designed accordingly, would they be identified as a better project than someone that goes to you asking for the same amount of money for a similar project that does not have, cannot show that kind of approach?
Yes, and it becomes more numeric these days. I mean, you have to imagine that Adam started his presentation quoting one of the financial mechanisms to vet sustainability for investments and lending, which is ESG, environmental, social, and governance criteria. Those have been translated in interview questions that are being scored by our relationship managers, and they actually become a non-financial addendum to the credit approval committee. So they actually follow a process where these preparations, as you call them, Esteban, would be part of the filing that goes through the lending process to the point that actually the attribution or the capital allocation by the bank is decided on non-financial criteria more often than previously.
I mean, you know, is it real estate or is it a boat? And the laws are different, and the regulations on what you can do on it are different. So I think part of our challenge is learning to deal with water. How do we live with water? I think Koen had mentioned it. We're not just trying to keep water apart, but we're trying to, interact with it. So
if we know that we are in a legal framework, then also it's much easier to get insurance, because there's no insurance company who's going to insure something that is not legal. So we have to do a lot of advocating to explain to insurance companies what we do, how they can label it, and what the maximum possible loss of these kind of structures is, which is of course very minimal. And once we have the legal framework to say, okay, it's a boat or it's real estate or it's an kind of item in between, then also we can go to the banks, and then banks are helping us to finance it. But this combination of the legal, the insurance, and the finance is a very, very important step, and in that I think architects can play a role to explain how these new kind of urban components can look like.
More than ever, it's now that we need to talk to customers about sustainability. I mean,
from all of us at ULI, I just want to say thank you and have a great rest of the year for everybody.